Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of LiveFaith, our Zoom chat series thing. I don't even know what we're going to call this. It's just an opportunity to have some conversations and share some personal stories about life and faith and finding a way to encourage you in your faith. Wanted to start with a good friend of mine, Andy Youso. Andy and I have known each other since college when I tried to get his girlfriend to dump him because I didn't think that he was good enough for her. And I'm still right, but a lot of us are in that same boat. So
unsuccessfully, let's remember this, unsuccessfully, my wife, she's my wife now. And so there, Bart.
Married with like 8 kids.
Locked that one in. No, 3. It only feels like 8, especially now since we're all at home all the time together.
Locked in place. So Andy has been a radio DJ kind of all over the place. South Dakota, Oklahoma. Used to take trips down to Oklahoma City area to visit Andy and his wife and family. Now you are the afternoon drive DJ for KTIS, correct?
Correct. Yes. Guilty as charged.
Kind of a big deal.
No. It's an honor. I'll say that. That was always the goal because, we went to school at the University of Northwestern, St. Paul, and I met my wife there, and she's from the Twin Cities. I've lived all over, but she always wanted to come back to Minnesota. So I went to South Dakota, which is not Minnesota, then Oklahoma, which is definitely not Minnesota. And now I'm back. So we're here and we're happy, and I'm living the dream. I get to talk on the radio every single day. Now remotely. I'm in whoa boy. This is why this is the first episode.
Okay, so I got to tell a story with that. Andy,
the iPad.
Andy was my radio mentor in college. I took radio workshop for no credits because apparently I didn't do enough. One day we're in the studio, and I think it was Christmas, and I think we were rocking out to White Heart.
Oh.
And we had the CD player because we were still using CDs, at least for Christmas music. And Andy gestures wildly like you just did at your iPad, hit the CD player so hard that it ejected the drive. The disc flew across the room, and we ran about 20 seconds of dead air while we're scrambling to get something else over the air because we thought you destroyed it all.
Now, if you want to experience that yourself, you have no choice but to rock when you're listening to White Heart's version of Little Drummer Boy. That is when it happened. That song is the best version of Little Drummer Boy. And really, if you need some joy today, I know it's not anywhere near Christmas. Listen to that song.
It has been played at River's Edge Church in Vernon Center.
And just play that song and just stay away from any CD players while you're doing it. That's all. That's all.
So Andy, try and control your wild gesturing at the iPad. It's your wife's iPad too. Don't break it.
I have. I'm in a very. I'm like that scene from Talladega Nights. I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I? I'm in a very small booth.
Radio guy in a radio booth. Video guy in a video booth.
Okay. Where were we? Oh yeah. So back in Minnesota, living the dream. Love what I do every day. Oh, I was talking about, I love being on the air every day, but right now I'm home and I record at home. Here's my microphone right here. And then I just record it into the station because we're not supposed to go. So it's kind of interesting in this world that we're all just adjusting now and just trying to figure out what the new normal looks like. And, talking about hope and what I do on the air. Sometimes I feel like the dad. And my job is just to say, hey, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay over and over again, even if I'm not always feeling it. And it's this tension that I have because, again, sometimes I'm not feeling it. And as much as I want to be transparent and real on the air, I think, how vulnerable should I be in admitting it? And I'm being better about that because I'm told to be vulnerable. It's good. But then still be someone in a leadership position to say, okay, I don't know what's going on. We're going to get through this together, but I know you're looking to me for some hope. So I got to give you some hope that we're going to make it, even though I don't really know if we're going to. So, I mean, we're going to make it. It'll be fine.
Doesn't it's a tension that I think every pastor feels as well, where we know we need to preach the truth. We know we need to press people forward in the gospel, and so often you just kind of feel like a hypocrite because you say, I'm saying this and I know it's true,
Yeah.
but I don't always feel it, or I'm convicted. Oftentimes I'll mention about how convicted I am of my own sermon because I truly believe that I'm not the primary author of my sermons. It's amazing how God brings just the right things at just the right time, and I'm sure you experience that same sort of thing.
Yeah, well, especially because, well, Bart, I guess as a pastor, you're kind of a what you do on Sundays is kind of radio too. It's just a long 30-minute radio break when most radio breaks should be less than 1 minute. So,
So you're saying I need to shorten?
Well, I mean,
I've heard that before.
But and I was just thinking about it. It's so easy to go into the cliches, and we all do this if you've been a Christian a long enough time. Oh, God's got a plan. God's did this, and some of those cliches are bad because they're not biblical. But then some of those cliches are good because they are biblical, and they need to be said over and over and over and over again. And I was just thinking about in this time, and I was just writing this, and I can hold on. This is my prep for today because I'm going to be recording my show after this. I wrote a new version. Oh boy, this is heresy. I wrote a new version of Romans 8:39. That neither death nor life nor angels and all that stuff. And I just kind of changed it to the COVID-19 version. So let's see if I can, hold on, let me find that for you. And I was just thinking, there's a reason, hold on, you can use everything. Here we go, the Romans Coronavirus edition. Oh, never mind, it disappeared. I gotta find it later. It was like, neither life nor death, of course, that's already in the verse, but then neither awkward Zoom meetings like this.
We're getting good at them.
Or too much screen time for your kids, or yelling at your family because you're in a very small space together will ever separate us from the love of God. And so, again, I think that's, you take those cliches and find the truth in them that's from the Bible and just keep hammering people over and over again because we all need it. So.
Yeah, we preach the gospel every single day. The gospel never changes, but how we contextualize it, how we connect it with our community is kind of the key. We repeat it, but sometimes it sounds a little different. It looks a little different because we're experiencing something like this that's completely different. What does the gospel look like in a coronavirus setting?
It's interesting. I'm sure you're seeing this opportunity with your church and your people as well, but there are great opportunities to share hope. And I'm always going back to that verse about be ready to share the reason of the hope that you have. And I'm not always good at that. And honestly, this is something that I just had happen to me a few days ago. And I'm never good at this. I've been a radio DJ now, a Christian radio DJ for, let's see, it's 2020, for 15 years professionally now, 15 years. And whenever people ask, when you meet somebody new, the first question is always, oh, what do you do? And I go, oh, I'm a radio DJ. Oh, that's awesome. What station? Whatever station. Oh, is that the Christian station? Yeah. Christian music? Yeah. And then there's this awkward pause. and then I'm the one, instead of trying to lean into that awkwardness and say, hey, whatever, have a conversation about it. I just go, oh, so how about what'd you get for Christmas this year, or something like that. I always just go as far away from it as possible, or change the subject. I don't know if you feel that way too, Bart. As a pastor, you really can't avoid it. As a radio DJ, sometimes they can just go, oh, okay, and not be interested, and we're done. But I don't know if you feel that way too. Or I think, I don't know if I want to have this conversation about my faith today, and that's probably not the right way to feel.
Well,
at all.
We're all there. And, I one of the keys that I think that we talk about a lot of, especially recently at our church, is, God has ordained meetings for you. He has set up people to cross your path so that you can connect with them. Sometimes the key is to recognize when that's the case and then to engage with it, whether you like it or not. But if you're looking for it, I find that it's a little bit easier to engage with that as opposed to, I just want to be left alone. Airplanes are sometimes the worst. You're stuck next to somebody who wants to have a conversation, talk about awkward start. What do you
Right.
do? I'm a pastor. So what was I going to watch on my computer? What book am I going to pull out? A lot of my career, I've been multivocational. So I can tell them I'm a Phi Ed teacher. I'm not multivocational anymore.
No.
So yeah, I can't really get out of it, but it's interesting how people just instantly engage with some of those ideas. It's not just that you're a Christian, you're a Christian on the radio. You are I know we've joked about how you are in some circles deemed a celebrity. Was it life insurance, I think, deems you a celebrity?
Yeah, that it was hard to get insurance or something, yeah, years ago because of a
Yeah. So
or whatever it was.
but people are going
Yeah.
to recognize that you are a public figure.
Mhm.
How do you weave faith into a conversation with somebody who's that sort of clicks with them initially, and it, like you say, it gets awkward?
Honestly, not very well sometimes. And I'm trying to think, how do I weave faith? Again, I go back to that verse, always be ready to share the hope that you have. And I guess I just think the more hope I can share, the better. So sometimes that's just all it is. Or, I mean, just living it out, honestly. I mean, I don't know the last time I've had a real deep conversation about my faith with somebody that I didn't or have a relationship with otherwise, maybe through the church or something like that. But for me, it's about showing God's love and hoping, and this isn't always the best answer, but then saying, okay, well, they're going to see where I am here. And at some point, I hope they come talk to me, say, why is that? I probably need to open up more of those conversations. And I was just reminded, I'm big into and this is funny, you can laugh at this, I'm big into the local pinball community. and, and so
that is actually a thing too, isn't it?
It is a thing. I compete in tournaments, and so I get to know some of these people. And since a lot of pinball machines are at places like bars and bowling alleys, there's not always, sometimes the people there are just a little rough around the edges. And so it's a community that I'm not usually used to being a part of. They've welcomed me and they've been very nice. And so I just think, there's a few people that are Christians that actually listen. And they go, "Oh, I heard you talk about playing pinball. I thought maybe you played." But there was a guy, and he was one of the nicest guys I knew, older guy. And I would always see him at tournaments, and he would always talk to people and talk to me. And he'd always want to talk to me while I was trying to play. And I thought, as like, I just kind of want to play. I don't always want to talk. Right.
Let's throw him off.
But this wasn't while we were competing. It was just kind of as we're playing casually. He knows better than to do that. We could do a deep dive on pinball competitions next episode.
Let's save that, yeah.
But he would just, as I was just sitting there playing, just passive, just playing, just practicing or whatever, he would come and try to talk to me. And I thought, he was a nice guy. He was just chatty. Come to find out last week, he died from a stroke. And it's one of those things where I don't have a lot of people that I've lost that I'm close to or even had connections with like that. And I had no idea. And now I think, man, those moments I could have had that I should have shared, that I should have stopped. I should have walked away from the machine, because what really matters, that last day that I'm on the earth or that person's on the earth, what really matters. So anyway, I have not done a good job of that before. I'm going to start trying to do a better job of that now. What really matters in light of eternity, instead of just this temporary thing that I want to do.
How do you think, it's sort of a connected subject, but going back to your radio position where you've got, like you say, those 30-second, 45-second chances to encourage people. How do you think your interaction with people in a setting like that pinball tournament, in a bar with people who, that is a community that not a lot, I think, of churchgoers engages with a great deal. How do you think that influences your, what you say on air?
I think now more than ever, there are people that are coming to KTIS just because it sounds different, just because KTIS has been around for what, 60 plus years? Billy Graham started it when he was the president of University of Northwestern. And so I think in the back of everyone's mind, because every time I tell someone I work for KTIS, they'll be like, oh, that Christian station. I mean, people know, or that religious station or whatever. People know what that station is about. I mean, everyone has had some sort of interaction with it. And so I think at this point, people are just looking for something. And as you were saying before, Bart, every meeting is ordained. God is in every single meeting. There's no accident. There's no time where God goes, oh, well, that was a coincidence. And so I think now more than ever, there are people that are coming to KTIS to find something different. And they might not be able to put their finger on it, but it's hope. They're looking for hope. So I always try to share hope. And when I'm sharing my 45 to 1 minute sermons, I try to make it really basic. I usually won't even mention the Bible verse. I'll just, and I'm learning more to just say, not use such Christianese language. So instead of saying, what's an example? I was sharing the story about Jesus in the boat, in the storm, which is a great example right now. And so instead of saying, oh, in the Bible it says this, or Jesus, even saying Jesus' disciples, to say, hey, Jesus was in a boat with a bunch of people and they were going across the lake or whatever. And, and Jesus said, we are going to the other side. And so when the storms came, the people in the boat were like, dude, Jesus, what's going on? Why is this happening? And they went from, oh, you need to calm the storm to, you don't care about us. It got real quick with them. Jesus calms the storm. He says, you guys, where's your faith? Because I said at the very beginning, we're going to the other side. And so that's the promise. I said that. You totally forgot about that when the storm was going on. So saying it like that, instead of saying, oh, in the chapter of this and blah, 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 that's kind of how I try to connect with people, because you'll understand that reference and you'll know, okay, well, where to go. But people that don't have that biblical knowledge, well, they're not going to turn their Bible, let's open our Bibles to, and then do it there. So that's what I try to do. I try to be really accessible to people that are new to faith or just exploring faith, but I'm not going to shy away from it, because that's why they're coming to the station, for the songs that talk about faith. Even if they don't realize it, that's what they're looking for. And they need to hear those messages. I can't water it down. Doing that, I don't believe, is watering it down. It's just making it more accessible. And so that's, and so what I'll do a lot of the times too, is I'll say, hey, if you're new here, welcome. I'll just throw it out there. Say, hey, if you're new here, maybe this is the first time you're listening. Welcome. Thank you for listening. What you're going to find here that's different than anywhere else is every single song is just filled with hope. And hope's name is Jesus. And so I just share that over and over and over again. It's always about, hey, because in my church at the station, if you want to make it like a church, I'm the greeter, I'm the pastor, I do it all. So I have to greet people as they come in the door, and then I have to tell them, all right, well, come sit down. Let's talk about why you're here.
I think it's interesting, the direction you're going at that with is one that I'm hearing more and more. Actually, next week, from when we're recording and releasing this, I'm going to be doing one of these with a good friend of mine by the name of James Rock. I know you know James a little bit. We're going to be talking about a book called Faith for Exiles, where it's based on a Barna study of the church, and especially millennials in the church, and who is staying in the church and what's keeping them. And it's essentially exactly what you just said. It's not just reading chapter and verse in this very rote manner and saying all of these things. It's saying it in an authentic way and actually living it. I mean, it has to be real. Mm-hmm. It's not just, you say things like Christianese. It's not just we say all these things and then we walk out the door. One of the things I point out, we talk about how important relationships are, but we spend 45 minutes with each other once a week. Well, your relationship's really not that valuable if that's how much time you're putting into it.
And let me just say this. Nobody likes the shake your hand and talk to your neighbor part of church. Nobody. Who thought that was a good idea
And you're the extrovert. You're the one that's supposed to like it.
No,
I don't like people, so I've never
no.
liked it. But
No, I don't, because it's awkward. Because, hey, I didn't choose the person I'm sitting next to. That was the only seat that was open. I don't really care to talk to them. I don't know. I'm just being honest.
You're late, so you were the one that got stuck sitting next to them.
Exactly. And that person didn't scoot over for me. So I, with my 2-year-old, like trying to crawl out of my hand, and I've got my Bible in my other hand, and my kids are behind me. Oh, I'm going to have to go around you? You're not going to scoot over for me? That happened to me about a year ago at my church. And I wanted to stop and like, seriously? You see what's going on here and you're not going to move? And then I'm supposed to greet you? No. N-O.
Well, you'll be happy to know that at River's Edge, we don't have a stand up and greet one another time in the service.
I'm in. I'm coming.
If you want to slip it late and leave early, it's an option. And the donuts are on the way in and out, so you don't even have to go anywhere special to get the donuts.
Hey, speaking of talking about in Christianese, I was just thinking about this. I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes there are words in in our Christianese language that I think I say, and I don't even understand. Either A, I've never understood what they meant, and I just say them because I know what context to say them in, or I've said them so much, could they have lost their meaning? And then you look at what Jesus said, and you think of the way that Jesus taught. And it wasn't, I mean, sometimes he did throw down the Bible and say, all right, chapter, verse. Well, or he wouldn't necessarily say, he wouldn't say chapter, verse, but he'd say, okay, well, it says this. But he used stories. Mm-hmm. And in the end, we're all storytellers. So that's kind of how I feel about and so I think that's great. The Bible, sharing the Bible, the God's word, it's so good. It needs to be done. Because I mean, that's what we got to tether to. But then you got a lot of freedom. God is not a God of, God is a God of creativity. So we have a box, you know, it's there we go. There's Bible land. We're in this box. It's like a magical place like Disneyland. But the lines, but no, it's a Small World After All ride, which that's from the devil. So you're in the, you know, here's the box. Stay in the box, you're fine. But there's a lot of room in that box to share Jesus and figure out how to do that. So
I like that analogy. That's a good way of putting it, because there's definitely, you know, so often when we talk about freedom and creativity, you know, the conservative evangelical in me sort of tightens up.
Yep.
But there's
I hear you.
There are still constraints, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't limit ourselves to a corner of the box. There's a lot of room to roam. You know, I've talked with some of our teenagers recently about the difference between, you know, like we're talking Christianese, these words we use over and over, and technical language. There's a role for technical language. Propitiation is a word that we should be using in the church. It's a complicated word. It means a lot of different things. You kind of need a series of sermons to really understand what it means. But, you know, when we just casually reference the blood of Jesus over and over again, it can get a little gory if you don't understand what's behind that. And I think a lot of times, even, you know, those of us who grew up with that sort of language, we forget what it really means. And so it just sort of becomes a phrase that gets tossed around. Bible grandma in the mall shouting it out because that's just what she says.
Whenever I think of blood of Jesus, I think you got to say it like, you know, just another Billy Graham shout out, like the blood of Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, there's no other way to say it. You can't just say, oh, it's the blood of Jesus.
The blood voice. The blood of Jesus. That's why you are paid to use your voice.
These are things I can't say on KTIS, by the way. You're getting as much unfiltered Andy as you can get here.
Hopefully there's not a meeting that happens at well, honestly, on my side, hopefully there is a meeting that happens at KTIS with you on this, because it means people are watching this, but I think you're probably safe. No. So maybe to wrap this up here, Andy, why don't you share one encouragement or tip that you would have for how people can live out their faith daily?
Oh boy, one tip. One thing, and there's a song, and I get tied into a song because I work for a Christian radio station. There's a new song from Sidewalk Prophets called Smile. And the first time I heard it, I thought, oh, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because, it's talking about, hey, when you're, and this is paraphrase, this is not how the actual song goes, and I don't actually sing, but hey, when you're feeling down, you should smile, you should smile, you should smile. And I thought, well, when people are doing that, it's so easy to be fake Christian and say, oh, everything is great when it's not. But digging deeper into the song, it's talking about joy, and joy is different than happiness because joy isn't dependent on our emotions or our feelings. In the Bible, it talks about joy and how you are supposed to have joy in every situation. So that's the key, whether it's COVID-19 or, it's hilarious. I was reading, I had written somewhere in an old journal from years ago, 4 years ago, and I dated it, and I should look back what it was, but it was talking about how God's going to help us get through this, even though we're really hurt right now. And I don't even remember what the tragedy was because I didn't write it down. but it was just a reminder, there's always something. There's always something. There's never going to be a time in our lives where you think, things are all right. There's always going to be something to worry about. There's always going to be some tragedy. There's always going to be something that breaks your heart. That's okay. That's good. But we can always choose joy. And just like I said, there's that verse that says, be ready to share about the hope you have. And when you have hope and the rest of the world goes, well, the world's about to end. Why are you smiling? Why are you having joy? I mean, that's the chance. That's the chance. Because it's one thing to say all the things that we've said and the things that we do say about believing in Jesus. It's a whole different world to actually say, all right, I am being socially distant. I am stuck in this small room for the next month at least. And I'm going to rejoice in it. I'm going to be happy about it. Why? That doesn't come from me. Absolutely not.
It's that video that's going around online where it says, as the man and a voice that says, you have two choices. One, you quarantine at home with your wife and children, or two, and he instantly says two.
Yeah. Here, which, by the way, speaking of children, my 2-year-old's Paw Patrol episode's almost up, so we better wrap this up, or you're not gonna like what happens next.
Well, we can tie that up. I was surprised where you went. You said a song on KTIS. You didn't mention My Redeemer Lives, so I guess we ended strong there. And
hey, you must be happy. Your boy is back on the radio. Michael W. Smith, Waymaker.
Smitty.
It's like we're back in the 80s. Michael W. Smith is on Christian radio again, everybody.
Well, if we could just get John Schlitt to do it with him, I mean, it's, the internet would explode.
Plus, maybe some of the members of Stryper with the spandex pants.
Well, they're probably, they're not letting the people out of the old folks' homes, so they're probably limited on. Okay, this is going downhill.
That's what you need to get on your next episode of the Zoom meetings with Bart Whitman.
Yeah, we'll go. We are going a musical theme next, though. The next video that's going to be coming up here in a couple of days is going to be with our mutual good friend, the third amigo, Sam Turnberg. We're going to be talking worship with Sam. So those of you watching, come on in a couple of days and you'll be able to see that.
And ask him about his opinion on pineapple pizza.
As a Pacific Islander, he
has. You have to respect his opinion, so he'll tell you.
We'll have to get into that with Sam. Andy, thanks for your time. God bless you, brother. We'll see you around, and all the rest of you, see you in a couple of days on Live Faith.
Live it.